Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you how to bind your own journal or sketchbook using Coptic stitch binding.
Here are the materials I'll be using for this project. I have some PVA glue, but you can use any craft glue that you want. I also have some cotton waxed thread here. I have a bone folder just for folding the pages. I have some regular computer paper, some fabric, and some heat and bond. I'm also going to be using this photo holder box from Michael's that was $1.99, but you can just take an old hardback book and just gut the book, just cut down the seam with an X-Acto knife, and then take the pages out and then just repurpose the cover if you want. Here's a closer look at the thread. It's just flat wax cord. You can use any waxed thread that you want. So here I'm just taking that box that I was showing you and just cutting out boards for the front and back cover that are the same size as my paper, which is just an 8.5 by 11 folded over. And now I'm cutting out the fabric. So I'm measuring out, not precisely, see I'm not using a ruler or anything, just kind of eyeballing it, about 1.5 inches wider than the board. So now what I'm doing is creating book cloth with heat and bond and fabric. Instead of going out and buying book cloth, which can be expensive, I decided to make my own. So what you do is just cut out a square from the heat and bond that's the same size as the fabric, and you just iron it down. Typically in the past, I've then peeled off the back of the heat and bond and then ironed down a piece of tissue paper, and that way it creates a barrier for the glue so it doesn't go through the fabric. But recently I realized that's pretty much what the back of the heat and bond does, so I don't even peel it off anymore. So I just leave it on exactly how it is, you'll see here, and I just snip around the edges, and that's it. Then you have book cloth. Now you'll want to take your glue. As I said before, it doesn't matter if it's PVA glue. I just happen to have this from other bookbinding projects. You can use Mod Podge or you can use even Elmer's glue. It really doesn't matter. You just coat those boards with glue and then you'll place them face down in the center of your book cloth. So in order to get nice, crisp, clean edges, you're going to snip off the corners like this. Apply a thin and even layer of glue to the flap and fold it in, making sure that it's as tight as you can make it. And when you get to these corners, you sort of want to push in the side before you push down the whole flap, so that way it tucks in nicely. And now we're just going to go ahead and do the exact same thing on the second board. Now I've just taken pieces of cardstock that I've cut out to be a little bit smaller than the boards, just to hide all of those fabric edges, and I'm just gluing them down. And while they're drying, just stack them underneath some weight so they don't bend. And now I'm just taking some regular computer paper, 8.5 by 11, and folding them in half and using the bone folder to smooth out the edges so that way they're nice and flat. And I'm creating signatures, which is what the different groupings of pages are called in the books. So here I'm just doing 3 pieces of paper for each signature. And I'm going to go ahead and make 6 more. And now you're going to want to number them so that way the order stays consistent, because not every page is folded exactly the same no matter how hard you try. So I'm just numbering them 1 through 7 here. And now I have to make markings so I know where I'm going to be binding the book. So I couldn't find my ruler, so I have a measuring tape here, and I'm just doing every inch from each edge 3 inches in. So 3 inches in from the top and 3 inches in from the bottom. So I have 6 different holes. And now I'm stacking all those pages in order, and I'm using a straight edge. Again, I couldn't find a ruler, so I'm using a matchbook here. And I'm just marking up on each page, so the entire grouping of signatures are all going to have a line in the correct spot. And now I'm taking a sharp edge and I'm just poking holes through each of those indentations on each of the signatures. In addition to all of my signatures now having holes in the right places, I've also punched holes in the cover here on the front and on the back cover. And now is where the numbering of the pages becomes super important. So you're gonna actually start from the back of the book. So you want to start with your last signature and the back cover. Also, as I'm sure you can already see here, it's foreshadowing for later on, but my cats would not stop trying to get the string as I was sewing. So the first step is just taking your waxed thread and unspool a good amount, not so much that you're gonna keep getting a tangled mess, but not too little that you're gonna run out of thread. And just tie 2 knots at the end, right on top of each other, so you have a nice big knot. If you do run out of thread while you're in the middle of sewing, it's not a big deal. You just unspool some more, tie a new knot, and then just continue on from where you left off. Okay, so now we are just gonna open up the signature and take the needle and go in through the signature to the outside. And come up through the bottom cover. And now come in and around that stitch. So go from right to left through that stitch and then pull it all the way through. And then you want to open up the signature and go right back through the hole. And there's the second cat. And now you're just going to do the exact same thing for the rest of the holes on this signature and cover. So now your needle and thread are inside, so you're going to go over to the next hole and you're going to go from in to out. And now you'll go back up through the cover. You're going to go from the outside of the book inside. And you're pulling tight, but not so tight that you're going to rip the paper. And now you're going to go back through that stitch. You're going to go from the right to the left and pull the thread all the way through. And and then you'll go right back through the hole in the signature that you came out of. And once you get to the last hole in the signature and the cover, you're going to do exactly what you did for the other ones. You're going to go back through that last stitch, and instead of going through the signature that you came out of, you're going to place the next signature on top of it and go in through that first hole. And then you'll go right over to the next hole and then come back out through the signature and then pull it all the way through. And then now, instead of going through the cover, you're going to go from right to left through the previous stitch. And so every time you add a signature on top and you're doing that stitch that goes right to left, you're going to do it through the previous stitch. So you don't go all the way back to that first stitch every time. You just go to the stitch that joins the previous stitch with the one before it. Once you get to the front cover, you're going to take the very last signature and the front cover, and you're actually going to go through the cover first. So you go from the outside in, pull that all the way through. This is the hardest part of the entire process because the cover and the signature, they're very hard to keep like straight and keep the string tight without ripping anything, and keep everything even. So you're gonna just go right around the previous stitch without going into that signature. So I'm going from right to left through the previous stitch and I'm pulling that tight. And now you're finally going to attach the last signature, so you're just going to go through the hole from outside inside. Now you'll go in through the next hole to the outside of the signature and you'll pull that all the way through. And then go around the previous stitch from right to left. And then you're going to go in the cover from the top down. And then you're going to pull the string tight from the right side of the stitch. And then just insert the needle on the left side of the previous stitch. And then you'll go around that stitch from the back. And then once you come out the front, you're going to go in through the hole in the same signature. And then when you get to the end, you just tie a knot. And then just snip off the excess. So here is the finished product. What's really great about the Coptic stitch binding is that the book will lay open flat, so it's good for sketching and writing, so that's why I really like to use it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you give it a try. Thank you for watching.